Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Double 18 Podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Nagishi. With me, as always, is my co-host, the associate editor of Awful Announcing, Ken Fang, and Ken. A lot of action, just finally coming to an end. And I got to say, this week we saw a lot of bad football games today.
Starting from Kevin Stefanski coaching my Browns right out of a win, and a win they should have had easily, all the way to Arizona blowing a 21-3 lead. I don't understand how players can play like the way they did today, and how coaches who get paid the big bucks just coach themselves right out of wins. So, but let's get to it. I didn't see
Let's
much of.
start with your Browns. Give me your thoughts on the game today. Your Browns started Dylan Gabriel. Unfortunately, Ken has to go at the very top of the hour, so we got about maybe 40 minutes max. So I want Ken's talk on Dylan Gabriel's performance and the how Kevin Stefanski botched the final drive, or maybe the last two final drives, when the Browns still had the lead. We're not going to get into the Shadir Sanders interview stuff that blew up again, but go ahead, Ken.
Well, I thought Dylan Gabriel played well. He managed the game quite well, 2 touchdown passes. And, I thought that, they're up 21-17 late in the game over Minnesota. And, of course, the Vikings go in to London, never having lost in London. So I'm thinking this is a great opportunity. So, even if your TV is on, I can hear it in the background. But anyway,
Oh, my bad.
yeah, so let me just quickly say that Stefanski, for some inexplicable reason, called 2 timeouts in late drives and then made a pass at 3rd and 11, stopping the clock. That is just inexplicable. And that is a turning point, because it left plenty of time for Carson Wentz to go down to score, to drive for Minnesota to score a winning touchdown. Cleveland was up 17-14, but Kevin Stefanski, this is inexcusable. I mean, you have an opportunity to win the game and get out of London with a good win against a quality NFC North opponent. It would have been their second quality win over an NFC North opponent, having upset Green Bay 2 weeks ago. This would have been a great win. It would have been a tremendous win. I was really, really. I'm in my car. I have the game on, Steven. I'm going to see my nephew's he's celebrating his birthday, and then I see that I hear this 3rd and 11, and I'm incredulous. The timeouts and the clock management. Kevin Stefanski should not be allowed to go. I know this is not going to happen, but he should not have been allowed to go back on the plane. His passport should have been revoked right then and there, and not allowed to come back to the United States, because this is just really horrible, really bad coaching by Kevin Stefanski. And the Browns are now 1-4 going, and I have no optimism about this season right now, because Stefanski is coaching this. He's coached this Cleveland Browns team right out of the season. He really has.
Yeah, it was actually. I felt like I was watching, the Vikings versus the Steelers, where, Carson Wentz struggled, and unfortunately, you just nailed it on the head. That last drive and the one previously, they blew 2 timeouts just to help Minnesota for whatever reasons. And, they were running the ball very well with Quinshon Judkins, and somehow they went away from it, and they gave Ford, I forgot the first name, but the Ford guy somehow got the carry, and they never got back into it for whatever reasons. So it's ironic that, Stefanski did it against his former team, the very same team that he was an offensive coordinator before he got the Browns job. And then this is how he, put together a performance. I thought, Minnesota was probably was going to win, but because mostly large to the fact that, the Cleveland Browns were flying in with the jet lag and all of that stuff. And Minnesota was in England, in the UK, for back-to-back reasons, for whatever reasons. They were in Dublin, Ireland, and now in London. So, for all of that, I thought Browns had a great shot at winning, and they would have certainly shocked the world, like you said 2 weeks ago was against Green Bay. But I got to say that the inexcusable clock management always seems to be not just a thing with Stefanski, but it seems like bad teams does that all the time, and it was just one of those classic horrendous game management that costed Cleveland a victory that they should have had. And instead of being 2-3 now, they're now 1-4, and we're probably talking about is Stefanski now on the hot seat again or something like that. It was just a bad game for the Browns. It's unfortunate. Dillon Gabriel, certainly I thought he wasn't wowing anybody with the numbers he put up, but I think he did he did it pretty well.
He managed the game, and he got 2 touchdown passes. So, and I was impressed by the fact that he stayed cool out there. He wasn't rattled. He stayed calm. He managed the game. He did exactly what he had to do as a rookie, not to lose the game. It's not his fault that 2 timeouts were called by Kevin Stefanski and a 3rd and 11 call pass to basically punt the game and basically give the game to Carson Wentz. That's not his fault. So, the play calling really let him down. And I just have to say that Dillon Gabriel, I certainly hope that you don't become another long and just goes to show that another quarterback who has debuted for the Cleveland Browns since the Browns returned to the NFL in 1998, every quarterback that has debuted has lost for the Cleveland Browns. And I hope that this doesn't become a theme for Dillon Gabriel, because we've seen it for other quarterbacks like Baker Mayfield to get ruined and then can't play and then go to another team and then become do well. So I certainly hope that this doesn't ruin Dillon Gabriel, because I thought that there's some potential. I saw some good potential from him today.
Yeah, no doubt. I think that he is the 41st quarterback since they started in 1999, and it was listen, it came close, but in this league, you don't want close. You need victories.
You need to win.
You really have to, and you have to, win or lose. And speaking of losing, there were so many bad games today. It's unfortunate that I don't know if anybody had the pleasure of watching the earlier games today, but let's see. The Jets, they lost. So they're now 0-5. They're the only winless team in the NFL right now. And people in New York, the media members and the fans are freaking out. This is probably the worst Jets team that they've seen in a long, long time. Way back, going back to the Rich Kotite year, even Adam Gase years, even Lou Holtz years. They went 0-5, 0-4 in their first year. Now Aaron Glenn is 0-5, and they're talking about just dispatching him after this year. Saw most of this one on a local Fox game today. It was not a good game. Jets just looked awful. Offense and defense, it was just a completely disaster. They lost to the Miami Dolphins in a lackluster performance by both sides on Monday night. The doubleheader that I still have no idea why made it into a doubleheader by any stretch of the imagination. Meanwhile, the Giants, after they shocked the Chargers in a Jackson Dart era, crashed down. They had I believe 5 or 6 turnovers, with Dart throwing 3 of them in a horrific loss to the New Orleans Saints, who were winless. And now, the Saints largely won because the Giants shot themselves in the foot. The Raiders lost 40-6. It was ugly. Geno Smith, another 3 interception game. More than likely, I think his time as an NFL starting quarterback is pretty much coming to an end. The Dolphins blew a 17-0 lead to lose to the Carolina Panthers, another horrible team. Mike McDaniel is now 1-4, and he puts himself back in squarely on the hot seat, probably in the driver's seat. The shocker of the day, Broncos beat the Eagles
Right.
21-17. Worst weekend for Philadelphia sports fans with the Phillies losing last night. We'll get to that in a bit. But then they saw the Eagles suffer their first loss of the season at home to a Broncos team that, I'm not saying that they lost to like a 0-14, but it does have to sting because offensively the Eagles look still somewhat offensively charged. Jalen Hurts overthrew a pass to wide open AJ Brown for a touchdown. It's been a big conversation in the Philly about the issues between Hurts and AJ Brown. Probably more about AJ Brown being more dramatic than anybody else. But I got to tell you, the Eagles losing this one has to sting today. My God, the Ravens are what, 1-4 now, Ken?
Yeah, they're 1-4 with the Cleveland Browns. I never would have thought that would happen. I mean, I didn't see the game, Steven, but
no, I didn't much. But
they lost to what? The Houston Texans today. So
right,
yeah,
they had like 5 or 6 starters out with.
I mean, they also had Lamar Jackson out, but it's a game that even with depleted. You expect them to show a little bit more respectability, Steven. But right now, I have a feeling that this is a lost season for the Baltimore Ravens. And, with that division wide open, you'd expect that, right now in Cleveland, I mean, Cincinnati also in trouble too, without a quarterback.
Right. They just lost to the Lions today.
Yeah. And, the Jake Browning didn't look he had 2 touchdowns to Jamar Chase late, but they need a quarterback, and and Baltimore, and right now it's becoming the Pittsburgh Steelers division by default at this point. So it's really strange how the season's worked out, Steven.
Yeah, unfortunately, it looks like the AFC North is the Steelers to lose at this moment, but not because it's the Steelers are any good or things like that, but it has a lot to do with the other 3 teams. We mentioned Browns, Bengals, and the Ravens just literally crumbling, whether it's injuries or just self-inflicted stuff that we witnessed with the Browns game. And then the Commanders, after putting up a horrific loss against the Atlanta Falcons, they went to LA to beat the Chargers. The Chargers are now 3-2. Their defense just does not look good at all. I know Justin Herbert threw some costly picks in the game near the end zone. It was just a horrific game, and I don't know, man. I'm not really, a believer in the Chargers right now, even with Jim Harbaugh at the moment.
Very much pretenders at this point, Steven. I mean, Justin Herbert had a couple of opportunities to get the Chargers in the end zone, but he's throwing. I don't know what he was doing. His last pick at the end zone, I don't know who he was throwing to. He threw it right to the Commanders. So I don't know what he was throwing to. I don't know what he was thinking. But he is basically playing the Chargers out of wins. And you can have the best coaches you could have the best coaches, but if you have a bad quarterback and you're not playing well like Justin Herbert is, I don't care who you are. You're not going to be a contender. And right now, the Chargers are just not contenders in the AFC West.
Unfortunately, yes. Last week's game against the Giants, I don't know if the traveling impacted them, traveling from West Coast to East Coast. Still, that's not an excuse. And then laying an egg against the another NFC North opponent, an NFC East opponent, I should say, in an uncompetitive manner, was just not good. They had some bad penalties, a lot of self-inflicted ones. Now the Chargers are 3-2 right now. Denver is 3-2, and the Chiefs have a game against the Jacksonville Jaguars tomorrow night, which I think a lot of people expect them to, put up another win against, Jacksonville Jaguars team, even at Jacksonville. So now that there's a 3-way division tie right now. Now the Chargers have beaten the, both the Chiefs and the Raiders, so they somehow still control the division right now. But if Chargers don't pick it up quickly, Ken, I think that the Chargers might be in a lot of trouble right now. After getting off to a 2-0 start within their own division. But the game that nobody really cared much about, that everybody is certainly going to be talking about, is the Cardinals-Titans game. And for those who are not familiar with what happened in that game, the Cardinals had a 21-6 lead. Okay, I believe this was in the third quarter when it happened, or fourth quarter. Let me know. Running back Amari DeMarcado just basically, I believe it was 3rd down and 1 or something.
Yep.
The Titans just basically loaded up the box. DeMarcado just busted through the defense and was on his way to a long touchdown run. And then, just like last week when A.D. Mitchell of the Colts dropped the sure touchdown just before he crossed the goal line. Week when A.D. Mitchell of the Colts, he did exactly the same thing. He just literally celebrated too early, and the ball came out, and it was ruled a touchback. And from that point on, the Tennessee Titans, which is by far the worst team in all of football coming into this game, scored the last 16 points, and they beat the Arizona Cardinals 22-21. And
we have to mention the wacky play too, Stephen. Right after that, not only was the player also flipped the ball,
the interception that was
Cam Ward, an interception that was at the goal line that was intercepted by Arizona, but player fell down and then fumbled the ball. The ball went into the end zone. And that allowed Tennessee to recover the ball. They were down 21-12, but then they recovered it, got the 2-point conversion, got down 21-19, and then Cam Ward drove them down for a winning field goal. So Arizona, I don't know what they're doing. I said on social media, I said Arizona's not going to blow this, are they? And then sure enough, they did. This is Kyler. He was out for a little bit. He went to the blue tent to get checked, but he came back in. But Steven, I don't understand how, and they're showing it again on Red Zone. The touchdown montage is just it was just a bizarre play. I mean, Cam Ward, that ball really should have been intercepted, but the defender fell down after the interception, lost the ball. The ball got kicked by one of the Cardinals trying to recover it into the end zone, and then Tennessee fell on it. So by that time, if you're Tennessee, you're thinking it's your day, and they're 0-4 at that point. They kick a winning field goal that just barely went into the that just passed through the right upright. But a win is a win, and you know what? They have a happy flight back home to Tennessee, and good on them, because they've had some tough times this season. That could be a win that could propel them for a little bit. I mean, I know 0-5 isn't. They're probably not going to reach the playoffs even, but. At least it gives us some confidence for next week.
Yeah, this is kind of like a reminiscence of what I had to witness with the Bears last year when the Tyreek Stevenson was taunting with the fans, tipped the ball at the last minute, caught by Noah Brown for a Hail Mary touchdown that sent the Bears into like a massive tailspin. From that point on, including that Washington game, they lost 10 straight.
Right.
They were talking about firing Brian Callahan at some point. But now I feel like, if the Cardinals are this undisciplined and look stupid, maybe Jonathan Gannon might be the first coach who could get fired before Brian Callahan, because, at least with Brian Callahan, he has an excuse. He's starting a rookie quarterback. But, if you're Jonathan Gannon entering your third season, with the Cardinals, and, Kyler Murray's still struggling, to put away teams or beat teams that you're supposed to beat, I mean, what good does it do? If you're a head coach, your team is this bad, you had a chance to go, 3-2, or and you had come off a very strange loss against the Seahawks Thursday night. You had like 10 days of rest. You were fully prepared at home, and you still somehow blew this game. There is absolutely no excuse. And, ESPN's Lewis Reddick is pointing out at some point, if you purposely drop the ball before going uncontested across the goal line, you deserve to be fined or cut or something. It's beyond stupid.
Yeah.
And I couldn't agree more with what he said there. And they just kind of like encapsulate a lot of bad football we saw today, Ken. And it's actually like a lesson and reminder that NFL is like a weekly league. One team looked bad 1 week ago. They look great the next week. I'm talking about teams like Washington and then there's vice versa. The team looked great and then they crash back into earth, like the Giants. Jackson Dart brought so much juice, and now, he just looked like an ordinary rookie quarterback making his very first start, like he should be. And this is his second start, and he just looked like completely clueless out there with so many interceptions that he underthrew the balls to. And it's a weekly reminder just how much league can change, and it's interesting what is in store for us next week in week 6. All right, since we don't have a lot of time left, let's get to the number one sports topic this week. WNBA Commissioner Cathy Engelbert, is under fire when the Minnesota Lynx star Nafisa Collier, if I'm not mistaking it correctly.
Nafisa Collier. Yeah.
Nafisa Collier accused Engelbert for the conversation that she had with Engelbert over the CBA issue that they're currently dealing with. And Ken, since you're going off at the top of the hour, I want your thoughts on this. And I cannot think of somebody who fumbled the ball badly over a comment that was mentioned, and somebody who doesn't seem to have accountability, which is Cathy Engelbert.
Yeah, well, Nafisa Collier said in an exit interview with the Minnesota Lynx, she came up with a statement and saying that the leadership is bad. She also reflected a conversation she had with Engelbert, saying that basically Caitlin Clark should feel grateful that she could make money outside of the WNBA, so she could make money because of the low salaries in the WNBA, which is not the case, because before she got to the WNBA, she was making money on her own through NIL with Iowa. So that is one of the dumbest statements. And the fact is that she talked about how leadership was just bad. And the fact is that Collier doesn't even reach out to players. We've heard from all type of players, whether it was from Angel Reese, other players who have mentioned the same thing. Also, Elena Deladon, who retired a couple of years ago from Washington. She mentioned that she feels that maybe Engelbert doesn't realize that she's still retired, that she didn't hear from her. So this is a person who obviously cares more about money. She's done a great job in trying to bring more money to the WNBA's coffers, but also at the same time doesn't feel that she has to reach out to players and give a personal touch. And a great commentary by Scott Van Pelt on SportsCenter this week mentioned that no player has come out to support Engelbert, and that shows you something's wrong. There are in the Sports Business Journal, there was a report that the fact saying that Engelbert probably will not survive her contract and will probably be let go. Something the WNBA
is after the CBA is reached. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah. So that's something that the WNBA has been denying. But I think where there's smoke, there's fire, Stephen. And I have a feeling, to be honest with you, that Cathy Engelbert is not going to survive her tenure because right now there's a revolt by the players right now, and they're not happy. And the fact is that the CBA, which runs out after the WNBA finals are done, which it could be, anytime, probably sometime next week. There's a best of 7 between the Phoenix Mercury and the Las Vegas Aces. Once that's over, it's going to be a very contentious negotiation between the players and management. And, I don't think that she's going to be surviving once that's done, Stephen, because she has been tone deaf, especially the fact that first of all, she made a statement to come out saying Collier, she was disappointed in Collier's statements. Then her press conference during the WNBA finals just before game 1 didn't help her cause it either. So, and I also say, Stephen, like usually, when a commissioner is under fire, they'll have some type of support. There has been no support for her whatsoever. So I think that speaks volumes.
I think so. The statement that Cathy Engelbert made a couple of days ago was just incredibly stupid. She didn't really deny anything that she said. She brought up about her child and all of that stuff. I would assume that because of her age, I would think that her children are grown-ups. Okay, we're not talking some teenagers who are being harassed on social media, TikTok or whatnot. Okay, to use your own family member to kind of deflect your own stupidity and incompetency is just flat out irresponsible and unacceptable. And again, she didn't say anything to, vehemently deny it. Now, Nafisa Collier has already canceled a meeting with Engelbert, on Friday because the relationship is beyond irreplaceable and the damage has already been done. Okay, so it's one thing you make a dumb statement. It's another thing is you try to use Caitlin Clark as some sort of a magic word to describe the situation with WNBA, which certainly it's a much better place, but not because Caitlin Clark, came into the league and got paid. She was making a lot more money through the NIL deals while she was at Iowa. So for that reason alone, Engelbert lacks self-awareness and lack of decency in anything that she says and does. And there's a significant leadership vacuum that the WNBA has right now. And we know that the NBA has a vested interest in the WNBA. They came out and kind of saved the what was a league that was underwater, running in red for a long time. That's before Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese and the others, came into the league a couple of years ago and started to, raise the level in the WNBA. But, if Engelbert, pretends that, this is not her fault or it's not her, her fault, and then that the CBA is running into trouble, then Adam Gase and the WNBA people can effectively pull the plug on her tenure as a commissioner. Okay, so I'm sure that this is another line of headache that Adam Gase has to deal with, in addition to the Clippers aspiration story that has been broken by Pablo Torre in recent weeks. So this is another problem that NBA certainly does not want to deal with. And I think the only way to deal with, of course, is to, force Engelbert into resignation or being fired upon CBA is being negotiated. And I think, that's probably one of the biggest sticking points right now, or at least something that needs to be included in the CBA. I think Engelbert has to be fired and have a new leadership in place in order to, for the WNBA Players Association to come to an agreement with any CBA agreement, because I think Cathy Engelbert is a dead man, or in this case, dead woman walking right now. Okay?
Absolutely. And I think that, like I said, she's not going to survive. And the WNBA has got to find someone who is a little bit more uh, warm to the players and a little bit more considerate to the players' feelings. And a commissioner doesn't have to be friends with we've seen Roger Goodell with the players, but he's still a type of leader that will be he's still going to be in. Probably if you wanted another term, he probably would get it. So, but here's a situation where a commissioner has no support whatsoever, none going into the room, and I just don't think that. I have a feeling that she's probably after this CBA negotiation is done, she's out the door.
Yeah, and I think that's for the better, because I think for the WNBA to thrive, you don't need a leader that not only mispronounced the name of Natalie Nakase, who's one of the best coaches out there, insinuate that Caitlin Clark should be lucky, and then come out and say she never said that, and then implying that Nafisa Collier is a liar. She just keeps digging holes for herself, as she goes on, and I think her days as a commissioner right now is pretty much over as soon as the new CBA is reached, hopefully within maybe in a couple of weeks or so. All right, Ken, let's finish it off since you have to go off at the top of the hour. We got about maybe 5-6 minutes or so. Let's talk about the MLB playoffs. We had the wild card last week that came to an end. My Cubs somehow miraculously survived and beat the Padres, even with the bad mismanagement of the bullpen in the game 3. They played the Brewers. They got their ass kicked, unfortunately, because they decided to start Michael Boyd on 3 days of rest, which was a terrible idea. The Yankees are now down 0-2 after they were outscored today 13-7. Yesterday they lost to Toronto 11-1.
And I thoroughly enjoyed them being thrashed today.
I know, because you're a Boston guy. I understand, especially after the Yankees, came back and beat the Boston Red Sox 2-1 in the wild card. And unfortunately, it doesn't seem like the Yankees don't have much left at this point right now.
Well, they're going to be home. We'll see if home cooking helps them. Toronto traditionally doesn't play well at Yankee Stadium, so we'll see how that happens. In regards to the National League, Stephen, we gotta give our props to, again, the unicorn known as Shohei Ohtani. Last night, coming in and
he goes 7 innings pretty much, or 7 innings yesterday.
Right. And I think he had 9 strikeouts, if I'm not mistaken, including one against.
And he was down 3-2. Right.
I mean, here's a guy we all know he can hit. We all know, and we all remember the world, the baseball, the classic that he struck out Mike Trout in the finals of the World Baseball Classic, and then you saw him basically go without a year of pitching because of his with his elbow. But now here he is. He's totally recovered. And the fact is he came in a clutch situation, down 3-0, Stephen, battling back, keeping the Dodgers in play until they finally were able to go ahead 5-3 and pitch seven innings and basically keep Philadelphia at bay. That was a great performance. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, he's not going to be MVP this year, probably not, but still, he's just absolutely fantastic. And he is showing, Stephen, what a great player he is from both sides. I mean, this would be like, this would be as if Hank Aaron was doing the same thing and striking out Willie Mays, same thing. He's coming up. He's doing a great job. And I can't marvel enough about Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah, and he struck out 4 times at bat. That was not a great game for Ohtani offensively either. Now, Ironically, the Dodgers were kind of bailed out because when the Phillies scored 2 runs off JT Realmuto's triple, right fielder Teoscar Hernandez, who's always been questionable outfield skills, Boots one, not literally. He just basically trotted and chased the ball when the ball went past the right field. It was absolutely unacceptable. That led to 2-0 game. And then Teoscar, of all people, came in the 7th inning, I believe, and hit a 3-run home run to give the Dodgers a 5-3 lead. So, listen, I don't want to say, listen, you hit a 3-run home run, you get a pass for a poor defense. That's not how it works. But at least in last night's game, Teoscar Hernandez came through offensively. And, you have to think long and hard about, how the Dodgers deployed their defense. Because normally, if Dodgers didn't have, Shohei Ohtani, Teoscar Hernandez would be a DH on a normal, regular days, or at least normally. But because you already have Ohtani as the full-time DH, you have no choice but to put Teoscar Hernandez in outfield, even though with his terrible defense, and you're going to have to kind of put up with it if he can at least come through offensively like he did last night. So, and then you had Roki Sasaki, who was basically a complete bust this year with the injuries and mental weaknesses he has shown. He comes in, the last 2 weeks or so, try to save that horrendously ravaged, Dodgers bullpen. He came in, struck out Real Muto, and then he gave up a double to Max Kepler. Oh, it was a Schwarber he struck out. Kepler had double. Castellanos hit a ground ball, and then he struck out. I think it was a Bryson Stott. He flew him out. Let's see. I fully fouled him out, third base side. That was quite a performance from Roki Sasaki. Who was much hyped. And yet he didn't live up to it, at least this year. But now he might be the secret weapon for the Dodgers to help them out in the bullpen, even though he doesn't have much experience being a closer, even in Japan when he was there. So, it'd be kind of so prophetic if the Dodgers somehow beat the Phillies. Shohei Ohtani besting Kyle Schwarber, and then Roki Sasaki with no real experience out of the bullpen here in America, barely pitched this year, somehow outlast John Duran of the Phillies as a closer, and then Phillies go home, once again, and now there are going to be some questions about, if the Phillies go home again,
right,
is this it for Phillies? Because I know Schwarber's a free agent. And they're getting up there in age-wise, and Rob Thompson's job security could be also be questioned as well if the Phillies bow out in the playoffs again.
Right. Well, we're at the top of the hour, so I'm going to have to get out. I have to be at work early tomorrow, so I have a hard out at 8 o'clock. We have a couple minutes over, but that's perfectly fine. But we want to thank you for joining us, the 77 people who joined us tonight. We'll be back again next week for another edition of the AA team, and we'll be happy to talk about what's going on with the NFL, college football, baseball, which, of course, by that time we will know who is in the league division, the league championship series. Hopefully it will be the Yankees. Hopefully, we'll see what happens, and we'll see what goes on after that. But thank you for joining us this week, and thank you, Stephen, for your patience.
Well, thank you, Ken. I appreciate you doing this on a such a late schedule, and hopefully next week, we'll be able to do a full hour of the AA team podcast, and then we'll have hopefully a lot of things to talk about. NFL Week 6, college football, obviously, and we'll find out. Will Cathy Engelbert still have a job by next week when we do our show? So we look forward to seeing you. Have a wonderful evening, and enjoy the rest of the night, and have a great week. See you next Sunday once again. Take care, everybody.
Have a good week in sports. See you next week.